Sir, economy boards last. You clearly can't read the zones on your ticket. Need me to explain numbers to you? Captain Derek Holloway's voice carried through gate B7, loud on purpose. Every head in the jetway turned. Colonel Jack Morrison stood at the door of the Boeing 777, his old hand gripping a faded Air Force backpack that looked older than most passengers. The bright lights hummed, engines roared outside. Jet fuel and stale coffee filled the air, and tension crackled everywhere. Holloway stepped out of the cockpit, his shiny Rolex flashing as he blocked Morrison's path. The old man's white hair was cut short, military style. A faint scar ran down his neck and vanished under his worn flannel collar. He said nothing, just stood quiet, pale blue eyes steady. We don't have all day, Grandpa. Some of us have real connections to make. The gate agent looked uncomfortable. Inside the plane, 287 passengers watched. Some looked away. A few pulled out their phones. First Officer Lisa Chin appeared in the cockpit doorway. Unsure, but she stayed silent. Flight attendant, can we get a wheelchair for this passenger? He seems confused about basic boarding. Laughter spread through the cabin, not from everyone, but enough. Morrison's jaw tightened, just a little. His hand moved to his jacket pocket, fingers brushing something small inside. Then he lowered his head and stepped forward, squeezing past Holloway without a single word. Look at him shuffling down the aisle. We're going to be delayed because someone's too old to travel. Holloway said it loud, like he was on stage. Morrison didn't turn around. He walked slowly, legs stiff but sure. His backpack bumped seat 23C. He whispered a quiet sorry and kept going. The cabin felt hot. Recycled air hissed overhead. Somewhere up front, a baby started crying. Maybe next time try Greyhound. More your speed, literally. That one hurt. The laughter was louder this time. Morrison finally reached his seat, 34E, middle row, middle seat. He folded himself in carefully, placed his backpack under the seat in front, and closed his eyes. His breathing was slow, calm, the kind you learn after years of practice. Holloway walked back to the cockpit, shaking his head at Chin. She didn't smile back. If you've ever been judged because of your age or how you look, type "Never give up" in the comments right now. And hit subscribe because this story is just getting started. And what happens next will shock you. Trans-Global Flight 447 pushed back from the gate 26 minutes late. A storm had grounded other flights. But Holloway was determined to make up time. The engines roared, the 777 rolled toward runway 34 right. Morrison sat still, hands folded in his lap. The college kid next to him never looked up from his phone. Takeoff was smooth. The plane climbed fast through thick gray clouds. Ice hit the windows like tiny bullets. 20 minutes later they leveled at 39,000 feet. Seatbelt sign went off. The cabin fell into its usual rhythm. Magazines, drinks, quiet talk about layovers. Morrison didn't move. His eyes stayed closed. But his right hand rested on his jacket pocket, fingers tracing something hard and rectangular. 90 minutes in, over Kansas. The cockpit went dark, not the lights, the radios. Chin was mid-sentence when the main radio crackled once and died. Backup hissed static, then nothing. Transponder blinked out. Data link flatlined. Holloway's hands froze. What the hell? He stabbed buttons, switched frequencies, slapped the panel. Dead. Chin checked every breaker, everything normal. But the radios were completely gone. Holloway's breathing got fast. His Rolex flashed as he twisted to the emergency frequency, 121.5. Static. He tried military guard, 243.0. Nothing. Outside, passengers had no idea. A flight attendant poured ginger ale. A businessman typed on his laptop. The baby finally slept. But in the cockpit, panic took over. We're blind, Chin whispered. We're completely blind. Holloway grabbed the PA. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We're having a minor technical issue. Please stay seated with seatbelts fastened. Minor. It tasted like a lie. Chin was already pulling charts for Denver. Holloway, we need to turn back now. He banked hard left. The storm ahead looked like a living monster, red and purple on the screen. They couldn't go through it, couldn't go around it, and couldn't talk to anyone. Passengers gasped as the plane turned sharp. Drinks spilled? Someone screamed. On the ground, Denver Center had been calling for 3 minutes. When the transponder vanished, alarms went off. 60 seconds later, 2 F-16 Fighting Falcons screamed off the runway at Buckley Air Force Base. Afterburners glowing, climbing fast. Orders: intercept, identify, and if needed, shoot down. In the cabin, only one man knew they were being hunted. Morrison opened his eyes. He didn't check his watch, didn't look outside. He simply stood, slow and steady, and started walking toward the front of the plane. Same slow walk Holloway had mocked. But now his hand gripped something tight in his pocket. Flight attendant Patricia, 55 years old, 32 years with the airline, saw him coming. She stepped forward, smile tight. Sir, the captain asked everyone to stay seated. Morrison kept walking. His voice was soft but strong. I need to speak to the captain. I need to speak to the captain now. Something in his tone made her move aside. He reached the cockpit door. Locked. He knocked once, firm. Chin looked at Holloway. He shook his head. Go away, we're busy. Morrison knocked again, harder. Holloway hit the intercom, angry. I said go away, old man. This isn't a museum. Morrison's voice cut in, calm and clear. You have no comms, no transponder. And 2 F-16s closing fast on your 6. Open this door or everyone on this plane dies. Dead silence. Chen's face went white. Holloway's mouth opened, no sound. Through the windshield, 2 dark shapes appeared, coming in hot. Chen hit the door release. Morrison stepped inside. The cockpit smelled of sweat and fear. Holloway half stood, confused and furious. Who the hell do you think? Morrison ignored him. He went straight to the radio panel, hands rock steady. He flipped the VHF to 243.0 manually, bypassing the dead system. Then he pulled a small, beaten-up olive drab radio from his jacket. Scratched, antenna bent, but it worked. This frequency never dies, Captain. He slipped on the headset. His fingers moved like they'd done it 1,000 times. He keyed the mic and spoke in a calm, old-school military rhythm. Guard frequency, this is Ghost. Ghost Morrison, call sign Alpha Tango 79er. Emergency transponder failure on civilian aircraft, Boeing 777. Flight level 390, coordinates roughly 38.5 north, 101.2 west. Request immediate relay to Denver Center and confirm interceptor status. Over. Silence. Then a stunned voice crackled back. Say again. Ghost Morrison? Affirmative. Ghost Morrison aboard Trans Global 447. Civilian aircraft in distress. Need comm relay now. Long pause. When the voice returned, it was different, full of respect. Ghost, this is NORAD Mountain Home, call sign confirmed. Sir? Jesus Christ, sir? We have you on radar. F-16s are ours, they're turning back now. What's your status? Total comm failure, using personal PRC-90 on guard. Need route around massive weather cell bearing 090. Advise. Stand by, Ghost. Holloway sat frozen, hands shaking. Chin had a hand over her mouth, eyes wide and wet. The radio came alive again. Ghost, NORAD? Denver Center coordinating. F-16s will escort on heading 270, descend flight level 280. Clear direct Denver, estimate 40 minutes. Copy? Copy all. Heading 270, descending 280. Ghost out. Morrison set the headset down. He looked at Holloway. Captain, start the descent. Holloway didn't move. Chin reached over, gently pulled the yoke, and began the turn. Her voice was a whisper. Colonel Morrison. Just Jack, ma'am. Tears rolled down her face. Morrison walked out. The door clicked shut. He moved down the aisle again, hand brushing seatbacks. Most passengers never looked up. But Patricia had heard everything on the intercom. When he passed, she stood straight, almost saluting. He gave her a small nod and kept walking. Back in the cockpit, Chin grabbed her iPad with shaking hands and searched. Colonel Jack Morrison, Air Force, call sign Ghost. She gasped and read out loud, voice breaking. Silver Star, Distinguished Flying Cross, Purple Heart. Shot down 3 times in Vietnam. Rescued 12 downed air crews using emergency radios. Helped write the survival radio rules still used today. Retired 1998. A living legend in Air Force survival training. She looked at Holloway. He was crying silently, tears running down his face. Oh my God, what did I do? You've stayed with me this far. Drop your prediction right now, what happens when they land? The descent took 38 minutes. Outside the windows, the 2 F-16s appeared. One on each wingtip, lights blinking perfectly. Passengers pressed against the glass, whispering, pointing. Morrison sat with his eyes closed again. He never looked out. When the wheels touched down in Denver, the cabin exploded in applause. But it wasn't for the captain. Word had spread fast. Patricia told another crew member, who told a passenger, who told Major Rick Torres, U.S. Army, in uniform, heading to Fort Carson. The second the plane stopped, Torres stood. Attention! His voice cut through everything. 80% of the cabin stood instantly. The rest jumped up. There is a man on this aircraft who just saved every single life on board. Colonel Jack Morrison, United States Air Force, retired hero. Sir, we owe you everything. The cabin went wild. Applause so loud it shook the walls. Whistles, shouts, someone started chanting USA. USA! Morrison kept his head down. His shoulders shook just a little. As they taxied to the gate, fire trucks, police cars, and a black SUV with 2-star plates waited outside. The jetway connected. The door opened. Major General Richard Caldwell, commander of Buckley Air Force Base, stepped aboard in full dress blues, ribbons covering his chest. He walked straight down the aisle until he found Morrison. Stopped. Saluted crisp and perfect. Morrison stood slowly and returned it. Colonel Morrison, the Air Force never forgot you. Welcome home, Ghost. He pulled Morrison into a strong hug. The cabin lost it again. Patricia sobbed openly. Chin stood in the cockpit door, saluting through tears. Holloway hid his face in his hands. General Caldwell stepped back and spoke to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, this man is a legend. He has saved more lives than most of us will ever meet. And today he saved all of yours. Applause lasted for full minutes. Then Caldwell turned to the cockpit, face like ice. Captain Holloway, step out here. Holloway walked forward, pale, shaking. Captain, this man is the reason guard frequency exists. He saved your plane, your passengers, and your career. If I ever hear you disrespect another veteran, in uniform or out, I will end your wings myself. Do you understand? Holloway could only nod. A phone rang in the cockpit. Chin put it on speaker, hands trembling. The CEO of Trans Global Airlines spoke to the whole cabin. Captain Holloway, you are suspended 90 days without pay, pending full investigation. Colonel Morrison, sir, on behalf of Trans Global, we offer you lifetime first-class travel, anywhere in the world forever. Morrison shook his head gently. I flew for my country, not for perks. But thank you, sir. The CEO's voice softened. Then thank you, Colonel, for everything. Morrison picked up his old backpack and walked toward the door. Passengers stood on both sides, silent, forming a corridor of respect. At the exit, General Caldwell walked beside him. On the tarmac, the 2 F-16 pilots stood at attention, helmets under their arms. Morrison walked between them. They saluted as one. He returned it and kept walking, stepping into the black SUV without looking back. Minutes later, Patricia found something on seat 34E. The old survival radio. And under it, a handwritten note on the back of a boarding pass. For the next pilot who forgets that old frequencies save lives. Signed simply, Ghost. What did you think of this story? Did Colonel Morrison finally get the respect he deserved? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this moved you, hit subscribe right now. Because we tell stories that honor our forgotten heroes every single week. And don't click away yet, look at the screen. Tap the next video. Because you need to see what happens when a drill sergeant walks into a restaurant and hears a voice he thought was gone forever. Trust me, you're not ready for it. I'll see you there.